Welcome, my friends. This is Karen, the Needlebug. It's time for another stitch with me. So grab a drink, grab your stitching, and let's spend some time together today. I had every intention of doing a stitch with me last week, and things were just a little bit hectic. So, in all honesty, I just didn't get one done. Um, we ended up having to take care of some things that we absolutely needed to do. Um, a bit morbid to think about them, but some things that really needed to be done. My husband is now 72 years old. I just turned 70 years old, and we only have one daughter. So we really wanted to make things easy for her. So we ended up going to our local funeral home and prearranging everything so that when that time comes, and this is stuff you really hate to think about because wow, you have to deal with your mortality, and we're not going to live forever, even though we want to, because geez whiz, I got lots of stitching to do yet. But we took care of that for her. So that was, some time spent out of the house until you uh, go figure everything out and make all those arrangements. And then the other thing we did, wow, because last time we made our will, it was when our daughter was just, I don't even think she was in kindergarten yet, and she's now 38 years old. So it really, really, really needed to be done. So we had to spend time reviewing all of that and going to the lawyers and getting all that taken care of. So, needless to say, I didn't get a video made last week. And in addition to our will, we also made our living wills. And again, so that our daughter, can be free of having to make those decisions that are going to be one day probably hard decisions. And not only that, but then we also have assigned power of attorney. So not nice things to think about, but things that really do need to be done. So, if any of you people haven't done those things and can, I encourage you to do so, because it makes life decisions easier for a family that is left. And then, at first we used to think, oh, we were young enough, we didn't have to worry about that stuff. That nothing was going to happen to us. And you never know. You absolutely never know these days what is or is not going to happen. And things happen that, you know, are tragic, and young people, and, so I encourage people to, even though it's morbid and you really don't want to think about it, it's something that we should think about. But anyway, let's not talk morbid. Let's move on to something stitchy wise. I'm still working on, and I have it up in the corner in the library, and I can't pronounce the name of the artist, or I would tell you that, but I can't pronounce it. In fact, I don't even remember it, to be honest with you, but it's a lovely picture, and it will look so good with my Stitcher's retreat that I'm starting to feel about this one the same way I did with Stitcher's retreat. It was like, okay, this is gonna be a mission to stitch this and get it finished. And I am all of a whopping 11%. A whopping 11%. So that's almost 17,000 stitches out of 152,220. So yeah, we got a way to go here, but that's okay. That's quite all right. It brings me joy. So speaking of bringing one joy, as you notice, I'm not working on the 36 count one. I hadn't gotten rid of this one. This is the one that's on 25 count, 1/1, full cross. What I was finding was on the 36 count one, although I loved it, although it looks totally amazing. I mean, I have it here yet. I didn't get rid of it. I have it here. I mean, it looks totally amazing. However, what I was finding is that I was avoiding stitching. I come over here in the porch to stitch, and I'd pull it out and I'd look at it and I'd go, nope, nope, don't want to work on that today. And then, I'd pull something else out like pandemic, and I'd put a couple stitches in that and I'd go, nope, not feeling the love for that one today. So I was having and that's the other reason I didn't make any videos, is because I was having a very unsettled time as to, I don't want to stitch on this. I mean, I love this 30 count. It looks absolutely amazing, but I'm not enjoying stitching on it. So after most of last week and the week before being a lot of, nope, don't want to do that. I'm not having fun working on that. And then not being able to get settled with something else, I decided, yeah, 36 count. Again, I can see it fine. I don't have a problem with my little 4 eyes. My cheaters over my regular glasses. I don't have a problem with it. That's all fine and dandy and wonderful. But it was not fun. Just lost my spot here. Okay. It was not fun to work on. It took a lot of concentration, and not that this doesn't, but it was different, and I just, nope, no fun. So I am back to the 25 count, 1/1, full cross, and in all honesty, that really is my mark off my stitches here, pardon me. That really is my preferred method. It may take, and I really, here's the other thing. And I know a lot of people say, and it's not that I don't believe them, because I do, because everybody is different, everybody's stitch is different. But I did not find the tent stitching on that 35 or 36 count to be faster. I actually found it to be quite a bit slower. And even though I was doing a diagonal, and even though I was staying within the diagonal and pretty much trying to stitch by stitch, I was losing my place. I was getting mixed up. Now, granted, that's a short trip. I'll give you that. That is a short trip. But I was just, and it just wasn't worth it for me to keep going on that. And you know, we've all said it many, many times. Life is just too short to spend time working on something that isn't bringing you joy. So it was back to the 25 count we went. And seriously, I'm enjoying this a whole lot more. And as you can see, I'm switching up methods once again. So you never know. When you watch my videos, you never know which way I'm going to be stitching. You know, for today, I'm cross-countrying, working cross-country within a space, within an area. Um, and that's pretty much what I have been doing here of late. And I really am finding that that is the quickest for me. Not that it's all about speed, because it certainly isn't. But that's the method that I seem to enjoy the most. Uh, and you know what? I blame Pattern Keeper for that, because Pattern Keeper just makes it too easy to follow a color through, you know, whatever area that color is in, and I don't get lost and lose my way, and I can just follow that color around. And oh, phooey, I split that. What I'm going to do today is I started over here with, I think it's 3371 that I'm working with at the moment. But when I finish this thread, I'm going to go back over here and fill in and do the next color until that thread is finished, and just work across this area that way. Um, I did think about going down, working down the column, and you know, like this, feathering into other columns and completing colors. Um, but the colors in here are also used down here up below this bar or this shelf, and I didn't want to run long pieces, or I didn't want to carry across this shelf area to get down to here. So that's why I'm just going to fill in this area for today and see how that goes. But I am enjoying this so much more. So much more. And this design, oh, oh, my heart. It's so wonderful. I love it. I can get as enthusiastic about this one as I did um, Stitcher's Retreat. Now, here's a question I had, and and I'm seriously not exactly sure how to answer it. So let me read it to you. It's from Julie, who watched one of my Stitch With Me's on stitching this piece, and I was talking about how this design was put out by Heaven and Earth Designs as I believe, a mini, if I remember correctly. And it's also charted by Nikki of Charting Creations. And the size of that leans more towards, not quite, it's somewhere in between a mini, Heaven and Earth's mini, and Heaven and Earth's regular size. Somewhere more towards the regular size, but not quite, but not a mini. It's somewhere in between, but it's not quite the regular size, but it's getting close. So she says, pardon me, I'm interested in the library and can't decide where to purchase it from. On Heaven and Earth, it uses 90 colors and has approximately 88,000 stitches, as opposed to Charting Creations, where it only uses 76 colors, but it's nearly twice as many stitches. Hold on, needed a drink. I don't understand what accounts for the difference. Do you? I'm in favor of less confetti, but I do love detail. And in all honesty, I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. You would think, and maybe I am not quite wrapping my head around this, and I kind of think I didn't save the start that I had of the Heaven and Earth one. I thought I did, but I looked and looked and looked before I started this video today, and I can't find it. So I'm kind of thinking I didn't save it. However, the Heaven and Earth one, shoot, the Heaven and Earth one, I didn't feel, from the part that I stitched, that it was quite as, what's the word I want? Quite as clear, quite as defined. So let me slide this over so that you can see this part. Okay. Now this is the top. Pardon me. I was just at the dentist this morning and had a tooth filled. My Novocaine's wearing off and my mouth is a little weird. In here, where these colors on this one look very clearly defined, on the Heaven and Earth one, it's hard to tell. Like, this is background, the wall. This is the start of the bookshelf here. And then the different colors in the bookshelf. Okay. And you can clear it. They look well defined to me. As, let me make the picture here a little bit bigger. As on the picture, okay, it looks defined. Okay. When I did the Heaven and Earth one, these bits in here looked like they all blended together. Like you couldn't see that prominent line along here or along here. Now this one is a little bit fuzzier, so to speak, but these are pretty cut and dry lines. Whereas on the or on the Heaven and Earth one, they were not quite as defined as this one. So that's why I chose the one by Charting Creations to stitch, because I liked the overall clarity better. However, when you start comparing stitch counts and number of floss used, you would, and like I said, maybe I'm thinking about this backwards. So you guys got to help me out here, because I know you all are good at this. If you have a smaller stitch count but a larger number of stitches, my head would say that you have more confetti and your detail should be higher. Like I said, I may be thinking about this backwards. But yet, on the stitch piece, with twice the number of stitches and about 24 less colors, I'm getting more detail on this one, on the Charting Creations, or what I feel like is more detail. And the confetti, I really don't think is that terrible. I mean, yes, you can see, but in this area of the books, there's, okay, I already completed 2 colors, 3 colors, and there's only one more to fill in here for the books. Now, granted, at the top of the bookshelf, those books are a bit, I don't want to use the word fuzzy, but they're not as prominent to be seen as when I get a little bit lower down on the bookshelf. But like I said, I really, and I apologize, Julie, but I really don't know quite how to answer that question. I think you would have to decide, do you want detail or do you want a smaller design, even though it has more colors and may have more confetti. Although from what I stitched, and I stitched the same area on both of them, from what I stitched, I really don't feel like either one is terrible when it comes to the confetti. I don't get a lot of, I call them one stitch wonders, places where it's just one stitch. I don't get a lot of that at least so far. Will it be different when I get down to the girl and her dress and that chair? It could be, but the majority of this is the bookshelf, and so far it's really not bad. I'm not sitting here pulling my hair out going, oh my God, all this confetti. It's been rather joyful to stitch. I haven't minded it at all. So I guess my answer is going to be go with go with your heart. Go with whichever one is going to make you happy when you stitch it. And like I said, there's I chose the Charting Creations one, but there is absolutely nothing wrong with the Heaven and Earth one. Absolutely not, other than I don't feel that there's quite as crisp a detail. But again, that's just my opinion. That's, that's not to say, not to put down Heaven and Earth. And not at all. It's just that's my opinion and what I look for or what I want in a chart that I stitch. And if I have two choices, I'm going to go with the one that has the crisper detail. Again, like I said, it's just my personal opinion. And the reason I got both charts, I have the one from him. Obviously, I do. I stitched part of it. And I purchased the one from Charting Creations. And the reason I did that was because I was curious if there was a difference, and if there was, what was the difference? It was just pure curiosity. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with Heaven and Earth. Absolutely nothing. It's just a matter, pick the one, I would say, pick the one that you would enjoy stitching the most. And that's what I did. That's exactly what I did. So that probably doesn't help you much, Julie. I'm sorry. That really probably doesn't help. But if anybody has any advice for Julie, or can further explain why oh my goodness, my throat today. Um, what the difference would be when a chart is smaller with more colors versus a chart that is larger with less colors. What does account for that difference? Because I honestly, that part, I'm not sure. So I would really look forward to seeing what you guys think. Is there anybody out there that can explain that? I have a lot of amazing. Hopefully, I unthreaded my thread. I have a lot of amazing stitchers that view my videos. So I'm gonna pick your brains on that one and say, what's your opinion? What do you think? How can we explain that one? Because I don't have any answer. I really don't. I wish I did. I really wish I did, but what mess did I make here? Here we go. But that's not one that I can explain. And if nobody, I'm half tempted, and maybe I will, I'm half tempted to email Charting Creations and just ask Nikki that question and say, how does this work? I mean, because she and Michelle are the designers. They, I'm sure, I would think, have a good idea of what's what with that. How does that work? I'm at a loss, and really, I would like to understand it. I would like to know how that all works, and what makes that difference. Because one would think, and like I said, unless I'm thinking about it wrong, one would think that less stitches, higher number of colors would equal more confetti, and more stitches with less colors would equal less confetti. But then what accounts for the clarity of the picture of the stitch piece? Oh, questions, questions, questions. Things to ponder. Makes you want to go, hmm. So, what have you folks been working on since last we met or stitched together? Like I said, I went through that little bit of a dilemma again of testing out different things and then going, nope, don't want to do that. I kind of half feel like I'm in some sort of a stitching slump here of late. Just, I mean, I love my stitching. I stitch every day, and some days I stitch more than others, but I do stitch every day. But I got a little distracted the last week or two, because there's floss tubers out there who are knitting. And I can knit. I did a lot of knitting at one point in time. Haven't done a lot over the last many years, but I pulled out stuff to start a pair of socks. So I'm past the heel and working on the foot of one sock, and I'm doing that 9-inch circular needle. So that's kind of fun. And I decided to do that kind of thing in the evening or for now, in the evening when I'm in the living room watching TV. It gives me something a little different uh, to do. It's a different mindset. So, yeah, when you watch too much FlossTube and then you got people that, oh, well, I think I'm going to make a pair of socks. And look at these wonderful socks I made. Or look at these wonderful shawls. Then it makes me get an itch to knit and not stitch. So I don't know how people can keep that under control and actually get stuff done in both areas. How do how can you make a lot of progress on your stitching and still make all that progress on your knitting? Oh, blows my mind sometimes. I go, what? How do they do that? But even though I knit and even though I started a pair of socks, stitching is still my number one passion. It is still what I will always do and will always work on. And even if a piece takes me what feels like forever, because, wow, 11%, that's all I have done on this is 11% and a long way to go. But it isn't a race. It'll get done when it gets done. There's other pieces I love, I want to stitch. Ah, but, oh my goodness, too many pieces I want to stitch. And I know that they're all not going to happen. And I hesitate to start too many, knowing full well that they're not going to get done. Not for as long as they take. When you have Stitcher's Retreat that took me 5 years, do you really, really think I'm going to get several more Heaven and Earth designs or charting creation designs finished? Yeah, I don't think so, but you never know. Maybe I will. But for now, I think as far as they're concerned, I'm just hanging with working on one at a time and see what we can get done. I also have, uh, I also have Pandemic started. I have Death by Cross Stitch started. Yeah, I should bring them all out and do a whip parade. and and I should maybe do a rotation. I have never really done I have never really done that I absolutely stuck with it. I tried a couple times, but I seem to always have failed. Well, I know the last time I tried, I failed because I wanted so much to have Stitcher's Retreat finished. So all I did was work on that. But I'm at the point with this one. There's no there's no deadline. There's no race to get it done. And the only reason there was a race to get it done on Stitcher's Retreat is because I really wanted it done and hanging on my wall. But I'm not in a hurry with this one. It gets done when it gets done. So with that, I am thinking about rotating. So that's my other question for you guys to help me out with is how do you folks that have a rotation, how often do you rotate? Or what's your schedule for a rotation? Do you switch every day? Do you switch once a week? Or do you complete a page? And I'm really not a stitch by page. I just kind of go wherever the thread takes me and complete areas. So Do you go by, okay, when I stitch 5% on this one, then I'll work on something else till I stitch 5 or 10%? Yeah. So how do you guys do it? So then I can think about, well, I am thinking about it, but then I can come up with a way to, some ideas for ways to set up a rotation. So any help on that would greatly be appreciated. Okay, now I gotta flip this. I'm gonna flip this to end a thread. See how nice this Potoki stand flip? Oh, don't look at the back. Look at all that cross-country stitch. It's a bit messy. Although, I've seen ones that are a lot worse. It's really not so bad. I'm not upset with it because all of these will get worked over when I fill in. I save the color with the most stitches for last. And then that covers, see here, that covers all of these thread carries. And it really isn't thick. So I'm fine. I'm fine with that. I'm not one who has to have a perfect back, although I don't like it too messy either. Somewhere in between. So folks, I really am going to call this an end for today. I think it'll be 45 minutes till we're off of here, and I think that's quite long enough for a stitch with me. There's too many videos out there to watch. People don't want to spend all kinds of time watching big long videos of one person when there's so many stitch with me's and other videos on FlossTube to watch. So I think with that, I'm going to end this for today and wish all of you a wonderful weekend and happy stitching, and find the joy in your stitching because life is just too short. So until next time, my friends, I will bid you farewell and see you in my next video. Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me, and I really do appreciate it. Bye-bye.